Hello, we're going to talk about how to create an accessible Canvas page. To start with, we are in edit mode in Canvas, and we're going to talk about chunking. The first part of chunking is white space. Now, white space helps readers navigate and process information. The line spacing in Canvas is set to 1.5, and that makes it accessible. We also want to think about not creating paragraphs that are very long where students have to scroll and scroll. We want to break that information up into digestible chunks. One way to do this is to use headings. Now, when you add a heading to a page, first you want to remember that the default title, or the title in Canvas, is set to a default of heading 1. And anything you add after that should be nested sequentially. So the first heading you add to a Canvas page should always be heading 2. And then you want to make sure that it is sequential or nested sequentially after that. This is because screen readers read that information in order. So if our headings are not set up properly, when a screen reader is reading to a visually impaired student, he or she will not get the information in the proper order. So it's very important to format this correctly. Next, let's look at bulleted and numbered lists. So if we want to make a bulleted list, we can highlight text and click on the bullet tool. The same with a numbered list, we would click on the text and then click on the number tool. We do not want to type in numbers. That will also affect the way screen readers read the information. So always use these tools above. All right, next we're going to talk about meaningful or contextual links. So you can see I have a link here already. Now, one thing we do not want to do if we're using a hyperlink in a Canvas page is to use the URL itself. This is confusing to students, and it does not provide them with information so that they know what they are clicking on. Instead, we want to make that link meaningful. So in this case, this link, let's unlink it for a moment. We want it to lead to the Screencast-O-Matic web page. We highlight that text, we choose the link to URL box and put the URL there. And now we have a live link. It's also good practice to add what the students are clicking on there so they know that this is a web page that it will lead to. So using the title of the web page, the article, whatever it is correct practice. We also do not want to use words like click here or here. This is confusing to students. If there's multiple click here's on a page, that's also confusing. So we always want to use the title of the page instead so the students know exactly what they are clicking on. Next, let's look at color contrast. So color contrast ratio has to be set at least 4.5 to 1. But an easier rule of thumb is to look at this color list. Now, if we look at the top row, using these very dark colors against a white background is a good rule of thumb, or using these very light colors on a black background or to highlight is a good rule of thumb. Now, if we did use a very light color as text, you can see that's very hard to see. And this is something that the Canvas accessibility checker will pick up on if we haven't used the correct color. We'll look at that in a bit. Also, we don't want to use color as the sole way to convey meaning to students. We have to assume that some students might be colorblind or visually impaired, so we have to avoid doing that. Next, let's look at alt text. So if we want to add an image to our Canvas page, the Canvas page will prompt you. Now, so here I'm going to add, say, this welcome sign. It's going to prompt me for the alternative text. The alt text should be a brief description of the photo, or if it has text on it, in this case, I'm going to use the text itself as the alt text, and then we're going to upload that picture. Now, something to remember when we're adding this, let me make this smaller. So this is correct. If we wanted to check the alt text, we could highlight the image, choose the mountain and moon icon, and here we can see that alt text is correct. We can change it if we needed to. One thing you need to make sure that is not on your alt text is extensions such as .jpeg or .gif. That is incorrect. You only want the description. We also do not want to put image of or picture of whatever it is. It's kind of redundant. We know it's an image or a picture, so instead we just want the description itself. Another thing to remember is if we add a picture in from our sidebar of images in Canvas, that original alt text that we put in is not going to hold. So here we've got this one. I'm clicking it from the sidebar. It's not prompting me for alt text. So I need to go here, highlight it, go to the embed image icon, and you can see the alt text is not correct. I just want it to say quiz, and I'm going to take all the rest of that out and update it. So remember that when you're grabbing images from the sidebar that you will need to check that alt text. Again, the alt text provides students using screen readers with information as to what the images are for. If the images are headings, in such cases you can make these images headings in themselves, and they have text on them. You want to include that text. If an image, say, is purely decorative, we can also use the decorative box. So let's do that again. Let's choose a file and we'll get just a decorative image here. I'm going to click the decorative image box and then I can upload it and it will go in our page. So if you do not think the image serves a pedagogical purpose and it's just purely aesthetic, you can click that decorative box. All right, so next, let's talk about transcripts. So here you can see I've embedded some media here. It's an audio file, MP3, but we wouldn't want to solely have an audio file for students for an assignment, because if a student was hearing impaired or deaf, they wouldn't be able to access that material. So in that case, we're going to want to add a transcript. And again, we want to name this appropriately. So we could put transcript for the story Fisherman. And I've got to change the color of that. We've got light color here. All right. So if we're adding a transcript, we can type the name of it. We also want to include the type of document we're attaching, if it's a Word file, a Google Doc, etc. So students know what type of document they're opening. We can highlight that text, go to Files, and upload the transcript from our desktop or computer. In this case, I'll choose something here, and then upload that file. So now the student has both an audio file or a text file that they can access for the assignment. All right, so next let's look at captions. Now, the embedded videos that we include in our course, it is our job as content creators to make sure that those videos are properly captioned. So auto captions do not fall under the umbrella of proper captions. Captions need to be correctly capitalized and punctuated to be accessible. They also need to be synchronized with the video content itself. So here, if we insert a video, I'm going to use the Insert Media tool and paste the URL. Here's my video. Now this video happens to have correct captions. We can see the periods there, the capitalization, and we could check that it was synced well. If you have a video you would like to use that does not have correct captions, you can often take it to your DSPS department and they can figure out a way to get that captioned for you. All right, next, let's look at the accessibility checker. Okay, so in a Canvas page, when you're done designing it, you can choose the Check Accessibility icon here, and you're going to see this window come up on the right side. Now you can see it caught my light colored text over here. Let's see if we can find, it's highlighted it for me right here. So instead of, a lot of times the issues that come up for your page will be addressed on the right and help you fix it. In this case, I'm just going to change the color to black. Here we go. Okay, let's see what it comes up with now. Adjacent links with the same URL should be a single link. So somewhere in here I have, it's telling me to merge the links and apply. And then I've missed alt text for this image here, it's saying. So I'm going to add it and apply. Now that there's no accessibility issues, you can see you get the celebratory balloons on the right, and that means your page is accessible. You can click Save and Publish and know that your content page is accessible for students. So I hope this helps you as you create your content.